Okay, our content today will take about 35 minutes. We'll save some time at the end of that for some questions and some answers of about 10 minutes. So we'll be a total of 45 minutes. Again, we're just waiting for a few final attendees to join us. My name's Mike Faster. I think today's the first time I've had a collared shirt on in 7 months. And I'm not in my office, I'm in my home office. So probably we all are. So welcome everybody. Again, I'm Mike Faster. I'm the founder and president of Coyote Creek. With me today is Dave Theodore. Dave, you want to say a few words?
Sure, good morning, thanks Mike. Hi, I'm Dave Theodore. I'm the director of our Atlassian services team here at Coyote Creek. And I will be doing the Q&A portion of the program after Mike finishes up the webinar content. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them in during the webinar, and then I'll answer those at the end. If there are any that we're not able to get to due to time constraints, or if there are environment-specific things that don't necessarily apply to everyone, we'll reach out to you sidebar and get those answered as well.
Cool, thanks Dave. Again, so just to reiterate one more time, so the slides are available as a handout PDF format. It's in the webinar control. For questions, submit them through the control as well in the questions. We'll try and answer as many as we can that are applicable to everybody. However, given the nature of these changes, chances are the questions you have are specific to your instance and your specific use case. Those questions are probably better have a separate conversation. So we will send a follow-up email at the conclusion of the webinar that will have a link to the recording, but also invite you to contact us after if you want to have a more in-depth conversation about what it all means for you. And with that, let's get started. On our agenda today, we'll talk about briefly about Coyote Creek. Most of you are already our clients and you know us. So I promise we'll be brief on that. We will cover the announcement overview at the very beginning, and then we'll go into a bit more detail on the key changes, and then how we're helping you, both Atlassian and Coyote Creek, how we're helping with the transition, some suggestions for your next steps, and then we'll do the question and the answers. We do have a lot to talk about. There's just a ton of information. Chances are we're not going to cover every aspect of this, but we're certainly going to touch the main points. So before we kick off, though, I wanted to start a brief poll just to get an understanding of everybody's deployment options. So let me go ahead and launch that poll, and just take a second, everybody, and respond. So that we have an understanding of where everybody is. Do you have cloud? Are you on server, data center? Do you have 2 out of the 3? All of the above. Let us know just so we have an understanding of our audience so far. I'm looking at some of the results, and of course the server is the biggest percentage. But take another minute and answer the poll, and then we will share the results here. We'll go for a few more seconds here. All right, let me go ahead and close that poll. Let me share the results. So as you can see, servers the largest percentage here, and 2 out of 3 and all of the above. So thank you everybody for the poll. Let's move on and talk a little bit now about Coyote Creek. And I promised brevity is a virtue on this slide, but we are an Atlassian Platinum Solutions partner. We have been for a decade. We do offer services for Atlassian applications. We do consulting and projects. We also do license sales, both new and renewal. And we have cloud services. Cloud services is 2 components. We have a managed services team that provides 24/7 support for Atlassian applications. We also have a program or a package solution to help our clients migrate to the cloud. Our values as a company, those of you that already know us, are service, integrity, and competence, and those transcend everything we do here at Coyote Creek. Okay, let's take a look now at the announcement overview. I call this slide our Band-Aid slide, and we might as well rip the Band-Aid off right here. So the announcement was made on October 16th, and pretty much the emphasis here is that Atlassian is committing to be a cloud-first company. Most current software offerings from their competitors and in general now are offered software as a service. And while Atlassian started with an on-prem deployment, they're now committing that they're going to be a cloud-first company. With that come changes in the server and data center product lines. Most importantly, given that 65% of the audience today is on server, they've announced the server end of life that starts in February 2nd, 2021. That end of life does span over the following 3 years. We'll go into more details on that, but the end of life announcement begins February and goes for 3 years. Additionally, on February 2nd, that's the main milestone date here. A lot happens starting February 2nd. As I said, new server license sales end. In addition, there'll be price changes to the server renewal pricing if you're on an advantaged plan. Now, an advantage plan is basically a grandfathered pricing plan. So if you aren't paying current list prices for your server renewals, then you will see an increase on your renewal price of approximately 15 points, 15%. In addition, there are changes to the data center product line, and those include that now with your subscription for data center starting on February 2, it will include native apps. So we'll talk about those here in a minute, and priority support. The native apps include for Jira software will include roadmaps, also known as portfolio or formerly known as portfolio. Confluence Data Center will include team calendar and analytics. And then Jira Service Desk will include the Mindville acquisition applications, Insight Asset Management and Insight Asset Discovery. The automation product will be sold separately. Further, data center pricing will change starting February 2nd, 2021. Renewal subscriptions will increase by 15%. And then new subscriptions have a more dramatic increase. So if you're not on data center today and you're going to buy it new after February 2nd, there's a pretty significant pricing increase depending on your tier. So Jira Software Data Center is going to increase in price somewhere between 77 and 140%, depending on the tier. Confluence Data Center between 59 and 80%. Jira Service Desk 30% across all tiers, and Bitbucket and Crowd 15% price increase. And again, I promised that was the Band-Aid slide. We are going to go into more detail here on the subsequent slides. So let's move on. What you already know is cloud is the future. Atlassian says they're simplifying their server and data center offerings so they can focus on cloud. That might be a misnomer. Cloud's not the future, cloud's now. As I mentioned earlier, most of Atlassian's competition, most modern software is deployed cloud only or software as a service. So while this is a painful change to end of life the server product, strategically it is the right direction for Atlassian to consolidate their engineering resources and support resources on less product lines so that they can concentrate their efforts on data center and cloud. It doesn't change the fact that this is a painful transition for everybody, us included as a company, but it is I believe the right strategic direction. Again, I'm telling everybody information you already know on this, but why Atlassian Cloud or why cloud in general? It is the fastest time to value. You get a better ROI in terms of your resource and your investment, and then innovation happens faster on a cloud deployment versus trying to roll or get the new feature functionality to on-prem server instances behind the firewall. all of you, most of our clients are enterprise clients. We all know it can be slow getting infrastructure set up in an enterprise, and a lot faster to get something done if you sign up for a cloud-based product. I'm not going to flog that. This is true for Atlassian Cloud, as well as I said, other cloud products. On the Atlassian Cloud offering, since they launched in 2012, they have been making constant improvements. And in the last couple of years, those improvements have come along more quickly. We should expect that over time, as the server end of life, that we should see and expect more cloud feature functionality increase in terms of how quickly the cloud continues to improve from Atlassian. And further, 90% of Atlassian's new customers start on cloud. It's pretty easy to get started with a credit card or go sign up for a small instance and begin. So that's not a surprising statistic. And then with the push to cloud, Atlassian's investing a lot of energy and resources into making the migration easier. There are a number of migration tools today for Jira and Confluence especially. There is Atlassian resources to help support customers going to the cloud, also engineering and product efforts as well to accelerate that. The marketplace has come a long way for cloud apps over the last 2 years. Today, there are 450 apps that are cloud focused. There are a lot of developers writing for the cloud, and then solution partners like Coyote Creek can help you migrate as well. I would say the migration to the cloud is easier. It's neither easy nor hard. It's somewhere in the middle. We do have an offering to help it become easy, but really to get to the cloud, it just takes planning, testing, and time, and it's possible. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we move on. So on the cloud today, Atlassian has the following things available. There is a section on the Atlassian website about the Atlassian Migration Program, also known as AMP. There's a lot of tools and information to help customers navigate the journey to the cloud. There is a free cloud migration trial. We'll talk more about that, but basically if you're on a server or data center license today, you'll get a cloud trial license that is equivalent to your tier and term. So it maps to your maintenance term on server, where you can get a cloud license and begin to prototype or test out cloud. Same thing if you have a data center license, it maps to your subscription. So that's included moving forward. We touched on the migration assistance. So Atlassian has built tools to help clients move their Jira and Confluence instances to the cloud. They've come a long way. Those tools are good. There's more improvements coming. We'll talk about that. And then within those two tools, there are app assessment capability where it helps guide you on what the app functionality is, what the recommendation is going from behind the firewall instance to the cloud. There is expert migration support. That's both Coyote Creek and from Atlassian. There's also a cloud migration center and cloud migration discounts. So if you have an existing license of server or data center, there is a discount available if you're going to move to cloud. And then there is a Git repository import for Bitbucket. So in the future coming up, there is support coming for marketplace app migrations. Atlassian's received feedback on the clients who have already taken the journey to go to cloud. One of the biggest blockers or barriers is the number of apps that clients have, the functionality between the on-prem instance and what's available in the cloud, and then moving that data is problematic. And so Atlassian recognizes that. They are working on tools to help the app migrations. So one of the things we're seeing both in the migrations we've done, but also in the channel, are that companies are surprisingly electing to abandon some apps on their migration to cloud. They view the value of getting to the Atlassian Cloud higher than some of the app functionality. And so we've seen some clients abandon certain apps and just say, we're not going to make use of that functionality. It's more important for us to move to the cloud. Now, that's a generalized statement. It really depends on your specific use case and situation. Certainly, there are some apps you can't live without, but it was surprising to learn that and see that some clients are just leaving that app on the table on the on-prem instance and make do without it once they move to Atlassian Cloud. Atlassian is also working on a JSD, or a Jira Service Desk Migration Assistant, similar to what's already in place for Jira and Cloud. And they're working on improvements now. You know, there's a release 1.0, if you will, or the first generation, I should say, on the Jira and Confluence Cloud Migration Assistants. They are working on improvements to both of those. And then they're also working on Bitbucket server to cloud migration. We haven't seen a lot of takers going from on-prem Bitbucket to cloud because of functionality difference, but that's going to change over time. Also, more support for cloud-to-cloud migrations, combining instances once you're in the cloud, and then support for roadmaps, also known as portfolio, how to migrate that into the cloud, and also for automation. And then I won't belabor the point. Rockwell's an example that they had a huge impact in terms of their reduction in maintenance, taking care of their infrastructure and so on after they moved to the cloud. So they were a happy client moving to the cloud. I'd be remiss. Coyote Creek though does have a solution. We call it Atlassian Cloud Migrations Easy. I already said it's neither hard nor easy. It does take a plan. It does take some time and testing, but it is possible to move pretty smoothly to the cloud. We have a cloud cookbook. It's a 6-step methodology that basically follows along the best practice guidance from Atlassian on the steps to take to go from an on-prem installation into the cloud. All of this information on this slide is available on our website. So I put the links at the bottom in the handout and on the recording. You can go and have a look at our website on some of the other resources we have. We have already done dozens of successful cloud migrations of both Jira and Confluence. As a Platinum Solution Partner, we will work closely with Atlassian resources to ensure your success. You do want to have a good coordination between the Atlassian folks looking after your migration and your partner, Coyote Creek. We want to coordinate the downtime and make sure that we're all working together on that. Big and small, we migrate them all is a little trite, but a lot of the resourcing that Atlassian has are aimed at clients with greater than 1,000 users. So below 1,000 users, the thinking is you have a more simplified environment and you'll be able to do self-help using the resources that I covered already. That may be true. Really, your actual mileage may vary. We have seen client installations below 1,000 seats that are complicated enough to warrant help. There is a link here at the bottom of this slide about cloud readiness explained. We did a webinar earlier this year, back in January or February, where we went through some of the considerations on cloud readiness. We talked about apps in particular and the number of apps that you have installed and how that may impact your journey to the cloud. So I would encourage you to check out that resource on our website. When you go to the cloud migration URL, there's information sort of presented on the page, but if you go to the bottom of the page, it has cross links to our blog articles and other webinars talking about this change that we're talking about today, plus other tools and blog articles on helping you move to the cloud. Likewise, we have similar pages on data center and data center migrations into cloud. When I say cloud, AWS or Azure, that's all on our website as well. And of course, if you can't find any of that, just send us a note and we'll point you to the content or further have a conversation specific to your installation. Okay, so Again, now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the choices you have given this change. And the first thing you can do is you can migrate to the cloud. And we talked about the loyalty discounts available for 1,000+ users. You can migrate to data center, and there's loyalty discounts to migrate to data center. We'll go into more detail on all of these choices on subsequent slides. Or you can stay put. You can stay where you are on data center and server, and you can start to make use of the free cloud migration trial, the license to do prototyping and check out the cloud offering. Again, just to reiterate, you have 3 years of support and maintenance on your server products. So this isn't something you have to do now, although you probably want to start thinking about when, not if, you want to make the change or begin the journey towards cloud. But you have some runway on when you want to do that. So let's drill down on this a little bit. First on server, if you're on server today, what are some of the key information, some of the key takeaways, and then we'll talk about data center next. So if you're on server, as we discussed, February 2nd, Atlassian is going to stop selling new licenses for their server products and stop feature development on the server product line. There will be maintenance offered, and the products that are impacted are what I consider the core products on server. Jira Software Core, Service Desk, Confluence, Bitbucket. The products that aren't impacted today, I could make an argument whether Bamboo's core or not, but Fisheye, Crucible, and Automation aren't impacted by this change today. On the maintenance, you will continue to receive or be able to renew and receive maintenance for your server products. Little bit of devil in the details. You want to check out some information on Atlassian's webpage. There are no new features developed, but in year one, from 21 to 22, Atlassian's going to provide patches for defects in the platform. So you have a browser-based defect in the database or in the app itself, they're going to release patching for the first year. Second year, they're going to provide security fixes, and then the third year, we're on a glide path towards end of life. So you want to keep that in mind. Really, if it were me, my recommendation would be to lay plans sometime in the next year to 18 months to move off of server, either onto data center or cloud. Again, but that's my recommendation. That it really depends on your specific situation. We did talk about the pricing increase as well. So Atlassian is going to increase pricing if you're on a grandfathered plan for server. That's for your renewals. But further, you should probably expect year-on-year price increases for both server and data center. I don't have any advanced knowledge that that's the case, but if we look at the recent history of Atlassian, there have been price increases almost every year. So I would expect, anticipate, and plan for an annual increase to both server renewals and data center subscriptions, based on, in addition to what we see at the moment or what's been announced for February 2nd. Again, I don't have foreknowledge, but I would expect it and plan for it. To reiterate the timeline here, the announcement of these changes came out on October 16th. They go into effect on February 2nd. So you won't be able to buy a new server license after February 2nd, but you will be able to renew. A year later, in February 2022, you won't be able to adjust your tiering either up or down. So you'll be frozen at that point on the tier you're on. And then a year after that, in February 2023, you won't be able to buy new apps to add on to your server installation. And then on 3 years down the road in 2024, it's the end of support for the server license. Again, just a reminder, you already know this, it is a perpetual license. So you do own the license, you just won't have any support. So You won't be charged maintenance because there won't be any after 2024. So that's a consideration, I suppose. However, if I was on a mission critical application, I probably wouldn't continue on an unsupported product. But it is in the realm of possibility, but not a recommendation. Okay, let's talk about data center now. So your data center changes. Let's talk. So there is new native functionality we talked about. That functionality now includes roadmaps for Jira software, team calendars and analytics on Confluence, and then the Insight product on Jira Service Desk. Those get included on February 2nd. If you're on an existing instance of data center, there's some rekeying. Check out the Atlassian website on how you get the new functionality after February 2nd. If you buy a new license, it comes packaged with the product after February 2nd. But don't hold me to it. But if you want to turn on the functionality and you have an existing data center license, I don't believe you have to do a reinstall. Okay, in addition, included is priority support. So that starts on a data center license on February 2nd. It is a better SLA. You get a little faster triage on a problem and a faster resolution as well. And Atlassian is working on a data center version of Bamboo. So more to come, more details on that. There are price changes to the data center licenses. We did touch on those. Renewal pricing increases roughly 15%, but then on a net new license, there's significant price increases depending on the product and the tier you're on. So there are pages on Atlassian's website with the new pricing tables. It gives you the current and new pricing. It doesn't tell you the percentage. We calculated some of the percentage increase based on the tier. And like I said, depending on the product, like Jira software, it's somewhere between 77% to 140% price increase after February 2nd. So the data center timeline, to reiterate, it was announced on October 16th. These changes go into effect on February 2nd. And then some point in the future, they're going to do Bamboo Data Center as well. So how Coyote Creek and Atlassian are helping with the transition. So we touched on some of this already. There are a lot of tools for cloud migration. Both the trial, you get a license that matches your term, either on your maintenance term or your subscription. There are cloud migration assistants with app assessments to help you understand the impact on what the app functionality is between on-prem and cloud. There are loyalty discounts, and there's the dual licensing we touched on. The support from Atlassian does have a function now called Cloud Migration Managers, and support engineering and the Cloud Success Manager solution partners like us in the Atlassian community as well. Note the asterisks, the Cloud Success Managers aimed at installations greater than 1,000 seats, and then solution partners cost extra money. The support from Atlassian to sort of maybe distinguish between what you get from Atlassian versus what you get from a solution partner from Coyote Creek. Think of the Atlassian resources as coordinating your effort and maybe ready to catch your installation after you get into the cloud. So the Cloud Success Manager is going to review your plans for how you're going to migrate to the cloud. They call it a run book. It wants to make sure that you've done effective planning to make your migration a success. They will coordinate the support resources on the cloud team to make sure you have a smooth conversion or an import into the cloud, but they're not going to do the actual work for you. I mean, it's going to be up to you, your team, or a partner to help you do the lifting to get into the cloud. So just know that. There are a ton of resources also on the Atlassian website and Coyote Creek's website. The Migration Center, AMP, the migration program, documentation, and the Trust Center is about security and FedRAMP and certifications and so on. Some of our clients have a FedRAMP requirement that they're waiting on. So you want to go to the trust page on the Atlassian's site and see their plans for all of the above on that. Okay, so let's talk about the cloud loyalty discount. It depends on when you make the move. Again, notice on the top the software that we're talking about: Jira Software, Confluence, Jira Service Desk, and Core. The discounts, the timing on the discounts, and the tiering differs between the product you're coming from and you're going to. So there's a different percentage discount whether you're going to cloud or data center and where you're coming from, and then it changes over time. It takes a little study and analysis on your specific situation to understand the potential discount and what tier you're in and when you're gonna move. And there are examples on Atlassian's website. I'm not going to cite an example here because it really depends on, like I said, where you're coming from. Understanding your options here. You should work with a Coyote Creek account executive and one of our engineers to walk you through it. There is a resource on Atlassian's website we're going to talk about here in a minute. But basically, if you elect to go to the cloud more or less in the first year, you can get up to a 50% cloud subscription discount. If you wait 2 years, it decrements 40 and then 20. But I think you get the idea that the sooner you move, the better your discount. And those discounts are off of the then current list price. So, you know, cloud subscription pricing may also change in the future. So be aware of that as well. Okay, let's talk a little bit now about the data center migration support. Atlassian does have tools to help you migrate to data center. They also provide some discounts. One of the tools they have is the Jira Data Center AWS migration app. It does get you to successfully set up an instance in AWS. However, again, your actual configuration, the architecture of what you set up may need tweaks beyond what that migration app is going to do. So if you're headed for Jira Data Center and AWS, you might want a partner to help you review and set up the architecture in AWS. Coyote Creek's done a number of those, both Jira and Confluence. We've also helped clients migrate at scale into Azure. We have at least one client with greater than 10,000 seats who moved first their Confluence and now Data Center into Azure, and they're pretty happy about how that went. Partners can also help you use automation to set up the infrastructure in AWS or Azure. So that's a consideration as well. Some of our clients are already very well versed in AWS architecture and can set that stuff up themselves. There are loyalty discounts as well to move to data center. A loyalty discount replaces the current upgrade credit. So at the moment, between now and February 2nd, if you're going to go from server to data center, there is an upgrade credit. So you do get a little bit of a break on moving from server to data center. It's a flat credit, and that's published on Atlassian's website. So you can go there. There's a page there, you know, search for upgrade credit. It can tell you based on the tier you're coming from on server into data center what that credit looks like. That credit is based on today's pricing. So know that. We're going to talk about the loyalty discounts here in a minute, but you should know that the loyalty discounts begin February 2nd after the new prices are in effect. So you want to keep that in mind. Also on the data center migration, there are support resources, Atlassian resources. Again, there's a customer success manager. That role is a coordinator to help make sure you have a smooth migration. That function is aimed at clients with greater than 1,000 seats. Again, the thinking is below 1,000 seats, you could maybe do it yourself. As I mentioned earlier, we have clients at 500 seats that have a pretty complicated instance. So you may still want some help even though you're below 1,000 seats. Again, there are paid for resources that are helpful, both Premier Support, enterprise partners like Coyote Creek, and also TAMs. Most of our enterprise clients do have TAMs and like working with TAMs. They can coordinate and help you plan and do strategy and marshal resources within Atlassian to help you be successful. And then there is a data center migration set of content on the Atlassian website as well. So in terms of the loyalty discounts, like the cloud loyalty discounts, it depends on the product and the tier you're on. So Jira Service Desk, Bitbucket, and Crowd have these discounts. So Jira Service Desk, I'm going to point that one out. If you make the migration from server to data center for Jira Service Desk, you can get a 40% discount starting February 2. On that Band-Aid slide, we did cover the price increases, and you can see if you go back and review it, the price increase on Jira Service Desk is 30%. So in this regard, the data center discount's actually pretty good and pretty helpful. Again, you'll notice that these discounts and the percentages decrement over future years. So the sooner you move, the better your discount. And it's specific to to Service Desk, Bitbucket, and Crowd. So if you're on Jira Software and Confluence, it's a little bit more complicated, I should say. But if you're on 1,000 seats and above, here are your discount tiers and when. You want to compare these loyalty discounts to the retail price increase that comes into play starting February 2nd. Again, depending on the tier you're on, the discount helps take a little of the sting out of the price increase. And depending on your tier and when you move, it takes a little or a lot of the sting out. But you need to really consider where you are and where you're going to on your tier to understand your pricing. It takes a little Excel pencil whipping to make sure you understand what you're looking at. Likewise, if you're below 1,000 seats, you get a little less discount, loyalty discount. And I'm sorry to say that at the lower tiers on data center, those tiers had some of the larger price increases. So take a look at that. And again, I would encourage you to reach out to us and work with account executive to, get a quote, take a look at what you're looking at. Okay, let me fire off another poll now. So I realize that was a lot of information. And I know most of you have been chewing on this since the announcement, but I'm just curious now what direction you might take. Given all of the above, what do you think you're going to do? Like today, I realize that could change over time, but do you think you'll stay on server and delay a decision, kick the can down the road? Do you think you're going to move to the cloud? Do you think you'll go to data center? Or unfortunately, do you think, you know what, I may have to consider an alternative to Atlassian? That would be unfortunate, but I understand. People are haven't been, I wouldn't say happy about this change. People are either angry or disappointed. So give everybody a chance to respond, and then we'll share the poll results, see where we are. Okay, just to take another minute. Okay, I'm gonna, any last votes here, we're gonna go ahead. I see a few of you haven't voted yet. Oof, okay, this is gonna be an interesting result, everybody. Any last takers on the poll question? All right, I'm at 72% on the poll. Okay, here we go. Let's take a look at the results. So 42% of you are going to consider an alternative to Atlassian. Wow, that's a lot. That's surprising. And then it's a tie for whether you're going to go to cloud or data center at 21%. And then some of you are going to stay put and defer a decision. So I think this is an important survey. I think there are a few Atlassians on the call today, so we may want to share that result with Atlassian. Okay, thank you everybody for your candor. Appreciate that. Let's move on. So resources to help you. Again, there are Atlassian resources. There's also resources on Coyote Creek's website. We shared the URL up front. So gather all your information, compare. Now this is this URL right here, Atlassian purchase price comparison, is an interesting utility. You should check out this URL. I went and looked at it. It has some method of determining if you're a client or not, and makes a recommendation based on your actual purchasing with Atlassian, and will give you some guidance on where you're coming from and what your options are in cloud or data center. So you should go and check out that URL at a minimum. And then make a plan. And even if you're staying put, you may want to make a plan on that as well. Like, what are you going to do? If you're going to defer your decision, just understand what staying put also means, especially over a 2 or 3 year glide path there. So there are other planning tools at the bottom. There's URLs there that I've provided. Also, from Coyote Creek, we do want to help you through this as well. It costs nothing to have a conversation with your account executive. We'll include Dave or another engineer to talk through your licensing, your instance, considerations for a migration either direction. Even if you're staying put, you want to talk through that, we're here to help. There is time. So again, the server end of life is over a 3-year period of time. While that milestone date is February 2nd, and so you may want to make some decisions before then, even after you do have some time. You do want to gather all your information from Atlassian site and from Coyote Creek site, and then again, let us help you talk through your choices. I didn't cover it when we talked about data center, but a point I wanted to add is you can convert your server instance to data center with a licensing key change. So you don't have to rebuild your instance to take advantage of some of the capabilities of data center. So you can make the move from server to data center. You are gonna pay for that, but you can move on to a data center installation with a licensing change. And you don't have to build out the fault tolerance capabilities of data center. So that becomes a purchasing and a math question as opposed to a project to do a data center migration. And we've had some discussions with clients that are actually considering that route. So you should keep that in mind as well. All right. I skipped the animation, but that's cute. We can skip through that. So now we have questions and some answers. Again, we may not be able to answer all of your questions, certainly not the specific ones. We will follow up on an email after the webinar with all of the answers so that everybody gets that. Or in the email, if you just want to speak with an account exec and engineer, we can do that too and work with you that way. Dave, I think you're up. You want to see if you can answer a few questions here in the time remaining. Before you do that, Dave, one last thing. When we conclude the webinar, there is a very brief survey at the end. It's one question. I'd appreciate the feedback if this thing stunk. Again, this is about the presenter, don't shoot me, but was this helpful at all? Was it just okay? Or was it like, oh, so fantastic? But appreciate your feedback, everybody. Dave, any questions you can answer here before we're out of time?
Absolutely, thanks, Mike. I know we ran a little bit long, so I'll just grab a couple of them and then we'll coordinate with you offline on the rest of them. So let's see, starting off, I'm going to go in the order that I received them. I may paraphrase a little bit here, so bear with me, but why would I continue to pay for server maintenance? So that would be if you're not moving off of a server onto cloud or to data center right away. The question or the answer to that would be so you can still have support from Atlassian. If you run into any issues, they'll continue to support you. And then also, as Mike mentioned, there will be bug fixes and vulnerability fixes until February of 2022. You'll definitely want to be able to take advantage of those. Let's see, next one. Can you explain more about the migration tools to move Jira to the cloud? So there are several options there. We can do what we call Big Bang, which is where basically you pick everything up and move it all at once. There's typically some effort involved in handling the app functionality and the data that apps may provide. And so that's where you may want to work with someone on that because that can be a little messy. There are also these tools called Cloud Migration Assistants, and they're basically apps that you install into your Jira or Confluence instance, and it allows you to move some or all of your data. Those are, they work in a pretty simple environment, so if your environment's simple, it would be worth taking a look at those. If you have a more complicated environment, you're probably better off either doing Big Bang or even working with a partner on it. We do a lot of these type of migrations, and they tend to be a little messy, so planning is really key on them. Let's see, next one. I'll just take two more because I know we're a little bit over time here. What about Bitbucket? Is it possible to migrate to cloud now? So Mike mentioned a little bit about that. So it is possible to move your repository data with somewhat relative ease. That would be your commits, your commit history, your tags, things of that nature. However, there's not an automated method of moving your pull request data. So if you're doing code review and pull request, that's something that you'll either need to write a tool yourself or work with a partner on. We have a tool that we've written that can move your pull request information. So if you need to capture all that, that's a somewhat non-trivial amount of effort to move that. Repository data is fairly straightforward, however. Let's see.
Dave, maybe one more.
Yeah, I'll do one more here. Let's see. If it's so easy to migrate to cloud, why would I need your services? Great question there. So I alluded to that a little bit, that a lot of people have fairly complicated environments. Also apps, not everything is available in cloud, and the things that are available don't always operate exactly the way they do on-prem. So we can help you kind of massage your functionality into what's available in cloud. There are some things that if you don't have the app installed, things may break. For example, if you've got Jira workflow apps and you don't have those in cloud, your workflows won't be able to operate as normal. So there may be some changes you have to make to your data in order to get into the cloud. We also typically do what I call normalization, where maybe we make everyone's username match your email convention. You might have some migrations that you need to do. Maybe you've got multiple instances you want to merge together before you move to cloud. That's something that we would want to do before you move to cloud. And then integration with cloud-based identity providers. Those are at this point somewhat non-trivial to set up, so we can help you with those things as well. But yeah, I mean, the marketing message I know kind of implies that it's not that difficult to move to cloud, but depending on your environment, it certainly can be. Yeah. So we do this for a living.
Yeah, hey Dave, let me tag on that though. Just in all candor, some clients absolutely can move to cloud on themselves. You might not need our service. So I would encourage you to check out that cloud readiness webinar, as well as the planning stuff on Atlassian's website, and make a determination. If you have a few apps and you have a pretty straightforward instance, you could absolutely do the migration yourself. So that part is easy. Certainly on the smaller seat count and stuff, it is easy. I mean, not easy. It's straightforward. You can do it. But as you start to increase apps and seat count and complexity and use single sign-on and some of those things like Dave touched on, I'd still do your planning and then decide. And if you just want to have a conversation about it, there's no obligation for us. If you think you have a straightforward instance, have a half-hour call with us, and we'll tell you straight up if you can do it yourself or not. We'll tell you where some of the bodies are buried. Yeah, you might be able to do it without us. That's cool by us. So, Dave, thank you. I see there are more questions in the questions window here on the GoToMeeting app. I'm sorry we didn't have time for all of those. We will follow up in writing on all those questions. I see a couple really good ones here we want to respond to. So we will follow up. The slide deck is available now as a handout. We will send a link in the follow-up email with the recording as well. So you will have both. In fact, we can send the handout if people think that's worthwhile. We'll attach the handout as well to the follow-up email. All right. Again, everybody, thank you for your attention and your attendance today. I appreciate your feedback on the poll that we'll have at the end of the session here. Let me see if I can advance the slide effectively. Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. This concludes our webinar for today. Bye now.
Thank you.